The House on the Hill, written by Verlick 1. I live right off Interstate 66. When you get off the exit ramp, around you are a Walmart, a Chick-fil-A, a CVS, and a Sheetz gas station. That Sheetz is one of the busiest on the East Coast, so naturally we get a lot of people coming through the area. Right across from the gas station were a bunch of woods. The woods were so thick that you could barely see a few feet into them. Around September of 2019, they began to clear out those woods due to corporations moving in. In October, the woods were gone, but something else was discovered. What was hiding in the woods, now out in the open for everyone to see, was a house resting on top of a hill that no one knew was there. It looked like an old farmhouse that would be typical to see in the 1800s. It was 2 stories, and the wood that was painted white was now rotting and falling apart. Half of the roof had collapsed, and it gave you the "I'm the house you typically see in a horror movie" type of vibe. It was close to being Halloween. You can imagine the hype and the superstitions that arose from it. Some said that it was used as a hospital for soldiers in the Civil War. Others said that it was the hideout of a serial killer from the 90s who preyed on children whose spirits still haunt the house. I brushed these stories off as nothing more than hysteria. I had recently gotten into exploring abandoned buildings, so I thought that this would be a great first exploration. I only lived like 3 minutes from the house, so I could stay longer if I wanted to. The night I was planning on going, the house caught on fire. Flames licked up the sides of the house and sparks flew into the air. Heartbroken, I went home. The next day, I drove by the house expecting to see nothing but a pile of smoldering ash. To my shock, the house was still standing. There were no signs of a fire ever being there. There were no scorch marks or anything. The house looked the same as it always had. Immediately overcome with excitement, I went back home and I planned my trip. Due to my work schedule, the only night that I could do this was, you guessed it, Halloween. Thankfully, it wasn't going to be cold, but they were calling for a storm. They moved trick-or-treating up to 5 o'clock that evening, so it gave me plenty of time to hand out candy and still explore. The storm was supposed to roll in around 8:30ish, so that gave me enough time. I got ready. I grabbed my flashlight, my camera, a backpack full of snacks, and I was on my way. When I got to the house, I was stunned. The thing was massive. Yeah, it could have been due to the fact that it was on a hill, but I still felt so small looking up at it. I climbed the dirt rock-covered hill and I found myself outside a window. I climbed through it, and when I landed, I felt glass break beneath my boots. Dust was kicked up into the air and I began to cough. I pulled out a surgical mask, and when I was done coughing, I pulled out my camera and hit record. Hey, what's up you guys? It's me, Vacant Explorer. Welcome back to another exploration video. Today I got something real special planned for y'all. Not only is the place I'm exploring tonight located 3 minutes from my house, not only is it Halloween, where the veil between our world and the spirit world is the weakest, but earlier this week, this entire house caught on fire, and it's still standing as if nothing had happened. I don't know about you guys, but I find that creepy and fascinating. So without further ado, let's get started. The moment I finished recording my intro, a huge crash happened behind me. I spun around and faced the camera to where the crash had come from. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. The sound came from what I guessed was the living room. I made my way over there, and the room was just filled with wood boards, empty soda cans, water bottles, and all sorts of other trash. I brushed the crashing sound off as to one of the wood boards falling from the ceiling, and I continued to explore the house. I went upstairs and found where the roof had collapsed, which, unfortunately, meant that I only had the staircase and one bedroom to investigate. The bedroom didn't really contain anything except an old bed frame and a closet. I was getting ready to head back downstairs when I heard shuffling below me. I froze in my tracks and I listened. It sounded as if someone was dragging their feet. "Hello? Who's there?" I called out. The shuffling immediately stopped, and it was eerily silent. "Hello?" I called out again, hoping that I would get some sort of reply. Still nothing. "Who's down there? I can hear you. Who are you?" I was met with a high-pitched, blood-curdling scream. I jumped, and when I turned to run, my foot slipped on a loose piece of floorboard and I twisted my ankle. I fell to the floor and I could hear the shuffling head towards the stairs. I crawled towards the bedroom and I shut the door behind me. I heard footsteps on the stairs and I began to shake. When the footsteps reached the landing, I could hear them pacing back and forth in front of the door. I held my breath and I tried my best to stop shaking. When I could no longer hear the footsteps, I opened the door a little bit so that I could see. I looked through my camera's night vision setting to see if there was anything there. There, by where the roof had collapsed, was a man. He was wearing a black hoodie with the hood up, black jeans, black boots, a pair of black tactical gloves. He was holding something in his hand, but I couldn't quite make out what it was. Thunder cracked and I jumped, causing the door to slam. I could hear the footsteps run to the door as I threw myself against it. The man was shoving against the door with all his might, and I was doing the same. My twisted ankle was shooting agonizing pain up my body as I tried to hold the man back. "Let me in! Let me in!" he shouted as he threw his body against the door. He finally stopped and said, "I'll be right back." I heard him walk back down the stairs and I could hear things being thrown around. Not wanting to risk running into him downstairs, I pulled the bed frame in front of the door and I made my way to the closet. I shut the door and I sat down in complete darkness. The storm was rolling in. Thunder was booming and the wind was howling. The house began to shake as the storm began to unleash its fury. I heard the guy run up the stairs again and he tried the door. I knew that the bed frame wouldn't last long, so I just sat there in the closet, just waiting. I heard the door burst open as lightning flashed. I covered my mouth with my hand in an attempt to keep myself silent. I heard him pacing around the room and dragging what sounded like an aluminum bat. Come out, wherever you are." I heard him taunt. The door handle to the closet jiggled. "I found you. Happy Halloween." I heard him chuckle. He pushed against the door, but I put my feet against it and my back against the wall to keep it shut. He began to throw himself against the door, and with every jolt, my ankle began to throb in pain again. He finally stopped trying to get in, and I waited a few minutes before moving. I cracked the door open to see if he was still there, and he was. His back was to me, as if he was guarding the door. The way I saw it, my options were 1. Just sit in there and wait until he got in, or 2. Run out and pray that I was faster than him. After weighing the two options, option 2 was the one that most likely had the outcome of me living. I stood up, gathered my courage, and burst through the door. I was able to knock him down, but the momentum took me down as well. I tried to stand up and run, but the pain shot up my calf. I turned and I saw the man was swinging the bat. He approached me and raised the bat above his head, but I kicked him in his knee, hyperextending it. He fell to the ground screaming, clutching his knee. Seeing my chance, I got up and hobbled out of the room. "Get back here! I'm not finished with you!" I heard him shout behind me. I got to the staircase, but stopped. The rain had started to pour, and the staircase looked like rapids. I turned around and saw the man stumbling out of the room. He looked at me and I saw him smile. "You got nowhere to run, boy. Your ass is mine," he said. I turned back towards the stairs and, seeing my only option, I went down. The bat nearly missed my head as I tumbled down. Every step that I hit sent pain throughout my entire body. Water kept filling my mouth, and I could barely get any air. I made it to the bottom and was finally able to get a huge gulp of air. I got up and I stumbled towards the window. I crawled out and I fell face first into the mud. I began to run, but I kept slipping. Eventually, I accepted the fact that I couldn't run, and I just rolled down the muddy hillside. I got to the bottom of the hill and I looked back at the house. I could see the man standing where the roof was collapsed. He had the bat in his hand, and he was waving it as if to say, "See you later." They tore the house down about a week later, and what stands there now is one of those huge storage facilities. I don't know if they ever found anyone living in there or anything like that. I haven't told anyone what happened that night, and I definitely didn't post the video. All I can say is that I'm never going to investigate abandoned places ever again.